And welcome to another episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and I have a full cast here with me today. I am joined by my co-host, Ron Caniff. I have Chad Ronnebaum here. I have Alfredo Arteaga here, even though you can't see the camera today, but that's okay. Listen, after the equipment stuff from last week, maybe the camera, we'll wait for the camera to come back. So in any case, it's great stuff. Great news today, ladies and gentlemen, that we're going to talk about because officially we know for sure now, so everybody can relax, calm down, and celebrate the fact that officially Vic Fangio will be the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator.
Are we sure about that?
Don't.
Mike Florio's not sure. I don't know.
Mike Florio's never sure if it's a positive for the Dolphins, but
exactly.
You would think after the Tua interview that he would start to back off a little, but nah.
Has that interview already happened?
No, that's on Friday, and Tua's going to be on Pat McAfee, I believe, tomorrow.
So McAfee goes first.
Yeah, if he's not on tomorrow with McAfee, it'll be Thursday with McAfee. I know he's going to be on Kevin Clark's Slow News Day this week. Tua's doing like everything. He's going to be everywhere.
He got a new agent. I wonder if he's being instructed to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's going to try to hype himself up as much as he possibly can because the Miami Dolphins have to choose if they're going to do his fifth-year option.
They're doing his fifth-year option. That's not even.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot less than. It's even that is going to be a lot less than what a regular contract extension would be. I mean, I heard rumors that somehow Daniel Jones is going to get $30 million a year. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll get into
the Giants. If you think about it, and we could talk about this if you want, the Giants kind of screwed up. If they were intending on giving Daniel Jones $30 million a year, then you kind of blew it. You were just giving him the fifth-year option and then extended past that. Now, I will say this. What the Bengals and what the Chargers are going to do is kind of unprecedented because the Chiefs extended Mahomes past his fifth-year option. And supposedly the Bengals and the Chargers are not going to exercise their fifth-year option and are just going to extend off of the fourth year. So maybe that's the push for Tua. He's trying to have a big year to get that contract done. Although the deadline is in May, so he could have already the option and exercise, and it won't matter. It'll be too late. So yeah, I don't understand what the Bengals or the Chargers are doing. I guess we'll wait and see.
Well, I think it's for the player because they're probably gonna get paid more on extending the contract off the fourth year than they would get paid on the fifth year option for Burrow and Herbert. Dolphins are in a different situation though because you got to worry with Tua's health. I think they'll probably wait until next offseason to extend Tua. Like they'll take his fifth year option so that they have him locked up for the next 2 years, but I don't think they'll do the contract until after next season just to make sure he makes it through without health issues. Whereas Herbert and Burrow, they're probably pretty confident right now just to do the deals. Just my guess. I don't know, but the difference there.
And we'll get into a lot more of that stuff as soon as we get into it. But before we get too far into it, just want to make sure that we mention that our sponsor for this show is PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, NFL, NBA, MLB. There's boxing, there's MMA, there's all sorts of sports that you can try out over there. The NHL is in there too. And as a matter of fact, one of the Taco Tuesday promos was an NHL player. All you have to do is just choose the over or the under on those individual players' fantasy projections. You can choose individual stats. You can go with fantasy point projections. They'll give you freebie picks for the Super Bowl. They're actually giving you Patrick Mahomes just 1 yard passing, and you already win on his square. That's about as easy as it gets. Patrick Mahomes averages feels like 400 yards a game. It's not that drastic, but you know what I mean. The Taco Tuesday, the Flex Friday promos where you get all your money back if you end up losing up to $20. So it's hard to justify not signing up with how easy Prize Picks makes it for you to jump in with both feet. So just use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up using that promo code. Again, that's promo code 5, FIVE, prizepicks.com, proud sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. All right. So, gentlemen, let's just I asked the question, and this is the title of the show, and quite frankly, I want to get your thoughts on it right now. I'm actually going to start with you, Chad, first, because I remember we read off your tweet, and you were kind of starting to fall into the camp of you weren't really all that hyped up about Fangio because of the delay. Has your thoughts changed now that he's officially going to be the guy? And do you think Miami could be a Super Bowl contender if Fangio is all he's cracked up to be as a defensive coordinator?
I mean, he's under contract now and signed. I don't know what went on. To me, just off the timing, the way things went, he was entertaining other jobs, and so I didn't want somebody coming in to Miami that didn't really want to be here, because I want stability at the coordinator position. And if you're going to go make him the highest paid coordinator, if I was viewing that from the Chris Greer or Stephen Ross lens, I don't want somebody that's kind of being wishy-washy about coming here. But I really don't know what went on behind the scenes. Maybe there was nothing, and I think there was probably a lot of media sensationalism going on with what was really going on. But obviously, he's an experienced coordinator. Does he make us a Super Bowl contender? I mean, it all depends how successful offseason they have. There's definitely some pieces that Vic's going to need on defense and the linebacker position, the defensive backfield. So that's probably a question to ask maybe after the draft and free agency to see what our defense looks like under him. But he's definitely highly regarded. You got to go with. I guess to say one thing is Ross at least does everything he can do to get players and coaches when they're available. I think like he's not afraid to open his pocketbook. He did to get Fangio.
And I feel like that's part of the situation where so many people, like, we have a lot of reasons to be upset about to Stephen Ross about lots of stuff, like the whole letting Bruce Beal do and signing off on it to some extent on the whole Tom Brady tampering thing. Obviously, other stuff that was going on that he ended up getting suspended for. Like, there's a lot of stuff that we can be mad at for Steve Ross about, but you cannot ever say that he doesn't want to win. You cannot ever question his dedication to this franchise, because in spite of the whole, he lives in New York, he's a New Yorker guy, he loves these Miami Dolphins, and he's doing everything within his money and within his checkbook, not in his brain, because he's not a football guy, but he's doing everything that he possibly can to build a winner in Miami. And that's one thing we can never take away from him. If he's willing to make Vic Fangio the highest paid defensive coordinator in football, it's not because Vic Fangio is just your run-of-the-mill guy. He's not somebody. This is what we've been wanting, right? We don't want a guy who's fresh off the grill and he's going to be the new great superstar that we're assuming is going to happen. Vic Fangio, as a defensive coordinator, as a defensive guy, has had success everywhere he's been. Not necessarily as a head coach, because obviously that fell on his face. But as far as coaching defense, I cannot think of a single person in the NFL right now, anyway. Maybe Alf can throw some names out there, but I cannot think of anybody more highly regarded in the NFL as far as a defensive coordinator goes, more than Vic Fangio.
Nah, it's Vic Fangio. Like he's the top guy. Like if you look around the league, we're talking about half a dozen to a dozen teams that are just emulating what Vic Fangio has done in his career and are trying to take offshoots of his own staffs. If you look at what Denver has done, they chased Giriaviro out of there, who runs essentially a Vic Fangio style defense, and who is kind of a disciple, right? And Evero goes to Carolina, I believe, right? With Rice, right? With Frank Reich. And what does Denver do? They're trying to replace him with Sean Desai, another Vic Fangio disciple, after they had fired Vic Fangio 2 years ago as a head coach. So that shows you the commitment to what they want to do over there in Denver and the success that they've had with their defense. And it all started with Vic Fangio when he installed it. Kind of tells a story with what they want to do in Denver. Like, they're trying to do what we're doing, but in reverse. Their offense was absolutely putrid, and they're counting on Sean Payton to fix that. Their defense was really, really good, and they're trying to keep continuity by signing Sean Desai. We're doing the opposite. We're kind of happy with the offense, and we're trying to have Vic Fangio fix the defense. So we're doing the opposite of what Denver's doing. You could debate whether it's better to have the good offense and the bad defense, or the good defense and the bad offense. But
No,
That's what's
I don't
happening.
need to debate that. We've had that already with the Brian Flores era. He had a great defense and a terrible offense, and it was a miserable experience. The only times it was not miserable was when Ryan Fitzpatrick was having a great day and he was just slinging the ball around. It was fun to watch him play, but it didn't go very far. So, yes, I will definitely take the high-powered offense over the high-powered defense if I had to choose between the two.
I think to add in with it, I mean, I'm excited about the defense side, of course, hoping that he can get the most out of the personnel we have. But I'm hopeful that Vic Fangio can help Mike McDaniel a bit on the coaching side. And I've been tweeting this a little bit that I don't know that I think Mike McDaniel needs to focus more on being the head coach or being the offensive coordinator, because I think some of the problems he was running into with delays getting plays in is because he's trying to be the offensive coordinator, or he's not realizing if it's fourth down because he's too busy being the offensive coordinator to be the head coach in those games. And I'm hoping that an experienced guy like Fangio can help him a little bit throughout the game and the management of the game and the quality control of the game, things like that, because he's a very experienced coach. And I really think that's what maybe Mike McDaniel needed, as opposed to a young, inexperienced coordinator trying to run the defense. So I would imagine that this will just McDaniel will just completely turn this over to Vic Fangio to run, and hopefully rely on him a little bit on some of the key coaching decisions during the game.
But you know what, Chad? This is something that was actually brought up, and it was being talked about in the OnlyFins as far as chat, that reports had come out that Frank Smith basically had to help Matt Applebaum with the offensive line coaching, and that was why Applebaum is no longer here, because he couldn't handle it by himself. Frank Smith, his title is offensive coordinator. His job was to run that role. So is it possible that the fact that Frank Smith could not dedicate his full attention to being the offensive coordinator that ultimately led to some of the problems?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe, but to me, Mike McDaniel wants to call the plays. He's clearly the play caller, which I'm fine with. I think Mike McDaniel's a great play caller. I'm just pointing out some of the deficiencies he had where, like, the head coaching job, missing the challenges and delays and stuff. And I think it's because maybe he's trying to do both at the same time. And he's probably relying on people to help him make some of the head coaching decisions you got to make during the game. And my point is, maybe a guy like Vic Fangio, who's been a head coach, who's been around the league a long time, can be somebody that helps him out a little bit during the game in that regard. I'm hoping they can interact that way a little bit, because I'm excited to get him. But, I look at the end of the season, Mike McDaniel did not win the Jets game. It was our defense that won the Jets game. In fact, Mike McDaniel went for it on fourth down at the 50 and didn't get it, and our defense had to hold him. We won that game 9-6. That Buffalo game, we gave up a lot to Buffalo, but we also got turnovers that were key to win that game. And Mike McDaniel comes in and he calls a down the field pass on a 3rd and 15 when we're up 4 and gets it picked off. And so Vic Fangio isn't going to fix those mistakes McDaniel made. I'm hoping that he can maybe help him, though, in some of those critical junctures to make good decisions as the head coach. That makes sense. That's why I'm excited to get him as well. I was going there with his experience.
All right, that's fair. So now, just to kind of go off of something that may or may not be breaking, but because this has ramifications towards the AFC East situation, Vincent Bonsignor, a Vegas Nation reporter at Review Journal covering the Las Vegas Raiders and also host of the In the Huddle on Raider Nation Radio, he is reporting that the Raiders and the Saints have agreed on a compensation element of a trade for Derek Carr. So it looks like the Saints
that's what was required. Because a lot of people didn't understand, the verbiage that was coming out of Las Vegas about Derek Carr. What's being reported, as soon as you heard that the Saints were setting up a visit with Derek Carr, that means that they agreed to a trade already. Okay, because that was the requirement to just have a meeting with Derek Carr before free agency. Now the deadline is obviously March. Now it means that there is no more deadline. Like, it's over. Like, if Derek Carr and the Saints have a good meeting, he's going to become a Saint, which means we get to laugh at the Jets again another offseason, because that was probably going to be their best chance at trying to close the gap in the division, and they failed miserably once again.
And they were wanting they wanted Aaron Rodgers. They wanted
they're not getting
Carr. No,
they're getting Zach Wilson and 7 wins. That's what they're getting.
I mean, they could try to pay Jimmy Garoppolo. He's an option.
Here's the reality. Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers both completely control where they're going. And for this meeting to happen, Derek Carr has to at least be interested in playing for the Saints. Because Derek Carr has a no trade clause. He can just say no. And Derek Carr has the power to force the Raiders to cut him if he wants to. Because what is it, like $40 million or something they're going to have to pay that guy?
Yeah.
And they've already sent him out of the door. And so the Raiders don't want to pay Derek Carr. They'll probably have to cut him. And so that's very telling to me that the point you guys are making is Derek Carr doesn't seem that keen to go talk to the Jets, because I guarantee the Jets want to talk to him. So the fact that this is happening with the Saints and not the Jets, who actually have a lot of young talent, they've got some really good skill players on that Jets team. And the fact that Derek Carr isn't going to meet with the Jets is pretty telling to me. And I don't think there's anyone in the world Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets. I just don't think he'll do it personally. So we'll see.
Part of me can't help but has to wonder, like, is it possible that some QBs are like, they don't really want to go through the AFC East right now? Because you're going to have, for lack of a better term, you have the Dolphins, who, whether anybody wants to admit it in the media or not, the Dolphins are a very dangerous team with Mike McDaniel on offense, and now even more so with Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator. You now have, of course, the Buffalo Bills, who are the de facto number one team in the AFC East, at least until we show up, and hopefully we're even better than we were last year. So you get to try to get through Josh Allen. And then, of course, Bill Belichick is still in New England. And even with Mac Jones as his quarterback, he's still going to be able to put together at least 7-8 wins every single year at minimum, because he's that good.
You have that. The other issue with the Jets you have is Salah's a lame duck coach right now. If the Jets are not a playoff team this year, I think he's gone. I mean, do you guys agree with that? I mean, he was close this year to being gone.
Robert Saleh?
Yeah. I agree.
And so if you're a quarterback like Derek Carr, do you want to sign a 4-year deal with the Jets? And if you don't make the playoffs in the division you just described, he's probably fired, and you're bringing a new coach in that you don't, if you're Derek Carr, you want stability for the next 2 years on who you're signing with. And so I think that's why the Jets job isn't overly appealing. Same with Aaron. Aaron Rodgers probably stays with the Packers if he's trying to win the Super Bowl. Do you want to go take on Buffalo and New England and the Jets, or do you want to go to the Raiders and take on the Chiefs and the Chargers to try to get to the Super Bowl? I think Aaron Rodgers is like, no, I'll stay that. To me, the team that a guy like Aaron Rodgers might be interested in a team like maybe the Titans, because it's a very winnable division. The same reason Tom Brady was on Tampa Bay. Like it's an easy division. So I think that it must be pretty close, though. Like as Alpha's pointing out, if they're willing to allow them to talk, because the risk the Raiders have right now is if they go talk to Derek Carr and Derek Carr talks to the Saints, why should the Saints send the Raiders anything if Derek Carr wants to be in New Orleans? It's just to get the deal done. So I'll be stunned if this is like a high compensation package going to the Raiders for Derek Carr. It's probably going to be just like a mid-round pick or something like that.
There's no way. I think Derek Carr gets at the very least one first rounder. Because
I want to know is that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No. What I was going to say is that I feel for quarterbacks, especially, quarterbacks are very much very high profile position. And
Tannehill was traded for a 4th round and then took him to the AFC Championship game.
Well, Tannehill didn't take them to the AFC Championship game, man. Derrick Henry ran them to the AFC Championship.
Put some respect.
Listen, Ryan Tannehill.
You're talking about Tannehill, man.
Ryan Tannehill deserves to be a starting quarterback. He deserves to be a starting quarterback somewhere. He's not a Super Bowl caliber guy, though. Like he's always been just good enough to get the job done in the regular season, and then the playoffs is just not enough when you have to face against the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens of the world. It's just not. So that's Tannehill.
And they were up 2 touchdowns on him.
Mm-hmm.
They almost went to the Super Bowl.
Almost
went to the Super Bowl the year after we traded him for a 4th round pick.
Yeah. So.
But I think I'm agree with Chad. I think that compensation for Carr probably won't be that great because they cut him pretty much. They didn't cut him, but they sent him packing and go home.
They have to cut him if they can't get something for him. So
that's what Matthias is saying here. Yeah, is that they're either going to have to release him or take it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be. I think it'd be like I'm going to guess a 2nd rounder, and then maybe something like small or something like a low or flip of some other kind of pick or something.
Yeah, a second rounder and another day 2 pick down the road, like maybe 2 second rounders and one of them is conditional, something like that. Makes sense. The reason that you want to trade for him and not pick him up when he's cut is because when he's cut, he holds all the cards on his first contract with you. If you trade for him, you can extend him off of his current contract, and you could rip up the current year, which is $40 million, and then move the cap hit down the road. So you get some flexibility cap-wise if you trade for him. That's the advantage to trading for him.
And they have to be doing that because the Saints don't have a lot of cap space, I have to imagine. So I'm sure that's part of the idea is
the Saints never have cap space.
Well, I mean, I don't think they can give Carr $40 million. They're going to have to trade for him. Assuming the Saints pull it off, they'll trade for him, and then they'll have to sign a new contract spread out over like 5 years to fit him in the cap.
Mm-hmm.
So now this brings us back to the Miami Dolphins, because obviously now the AFC East becomes a lot less daunting just on its face, because now you can't figure who are the Jets going to pick.
Were we really worried about Derek Carr making?
I wasn't really worried about Derek Carr, but I'll worry more about Derek Carr than Zach Wilson.
I really wasn't, to be honest.
The Jets are going to get somebody. I don't know who.
Is this the thing that lets Chad win the bet? Is it Jimmy Garoppolo?
I don't know if Jimmy wants to go there. The bet is Jimmy's going to get a contract that averages more than 20 a year. And if they're throwing out the numbers they are right now for Daniel Jones, I mean, Daniel Jones and Jimmy Garoppolo have to be pretty close, don't you guys think? And where you would rate them?
Daniel Jones had a sneaky good year last year. The Giants bet and they lost. I mean, bottom line, you
know who else bet on Daniel Jones and lost? That's why I don't like him very much.
Why did he screw your prize picks?
My prize picks on Daniel Jones did not get along ever.
Is he a complete free agent? Is Daniel Jones completely free? Like not under contract at all now, or
not? You know what? I think so. Right? I think that if they don't sign him, he's a true free agent.
They would have to tag him to have any control over anything. Then.
He is I think it looks like they actually voided his 5th-year option. So he's a free. As of this year, he is a free agent. So
okay,
yeah.
I mean,
that might be a guy to watch for the Jets because he's used to New York already.
Oh, you know what? That's an interesting concept. Well, I mean, even still, I'm not.
Lock him up.
I'm not.
Gonna lock him up.
Yeah. Probably.
If I were the Giants, I absolutely would not. But that's just. But I'm not the Giants. We're talking about the Dolphins here. So. I want to go ahead and I'm going to start pulling up some tweets here because I want to make sure that we get those in. So I'm just going to pull this up here real quick. So Ron sent out a tweet doing some fishing here. We got one from Ken Dasher. We got the top dog, Vic Fangio. Now let's get to work with the O-line coach and see what the offseason brings us. Ready to make a deep playoff run. So this is where the question, I'm going to ask it again, and it comes in here. We already made it to the playoffs, basically limping our way with all the injuries we had. We didn't have our starting quarterback for the end of the season. We had to use Skylar Thompson, who is definitely no Brock Purdy when it comes to 7th-round draft pick quarterbacks. and we basically had bruises all over the offensive line, and we were still almost this close to beating Buffalo in the wild card round. And we just couldn't get the job done because we just too beat up to make it any farther. And by the way, that is also with the fact that the defense is still making very foolish decisions with Josh Boyer doing cover 0 at the last on 3rd and long and just letting Josh Allen find guys wide open among other quarterbacks. That was the very frustrating part. This is why I say that if the offense can take another step forward, which I believe it will, especially now there are several factors to that. Factor number one, obviously, now that Vic Fangio is running the defense, I know Alf, he says Josh Boyer is a very good coach, but if you had to tell me who would you pick, Josh Boyer or Vic Fangio, the reason Boyer is fired and Fangio is here now, I want Vic Fangio. I think anybody would want Vic Fangio over Josh Boyer, and it's going to be a different defensive philosophy. It's going to be basically a complete overhaul of everything that we're doing, and so. There's no more blitzing, basically. Very, very little blitzing. That's one thing that Fangio does not do that obviously Josh Boyer did in abundance. So the blitzing is done. We're going to rely on the front 7 to get the job done on their own. And so that's number one. Number two is you would expect that now that he's finally going to be in a system that he doesn't have to relearn the system all over again, Tua's going to come back. He's going to be healthy. He's going to know the offense already, and he's just going to continue to practice in the offense that he already knows. He's going to have weapons that he's already familiar with. He has an offensive line that hopefully will be upgraded to some extent. Teron Armstead will be back. You're going to still have Connor Williams at center, so Robert Hunt is still going to be on that line somewhere, and whether he's at right guard or right tackle, he still knows what he's doing very much. So left guard and one position on the right side is all you really need to shore up. After that, everything else is gravy. Like, if you can find another tight end, fantastic. We basically didn't have one all year. So any upgrade there, if it's Foster Moreau, okay, that's fine. I'll go with it. I'll give it a shot. That's an upgrade over Mike Gesicki, who wasn't able to do anything. So if you can block, that's a fantastic move. If you can get a running back, I know that some people are eyeballing Dalvin Cook since the reports came out that the Vikings are trying to move on from his salary. We'll see on that one. But not only that, Tua's going to practice against, it's the defense that everybody uses, Vic Fangio's defense. So there's no more defending against his own defense where you're constantly getting blitzed. Tua is literally going to see every single day Vic Fangio's defense, which is considered the defense that the NFL just uses now. It's the standard defensive style that everybody's trying to copy, and it's coming from the master himself. Tua is going to get so much opportunity to improve, so many opportunities to get better as a whole. Like, it's hard to picture the offense not taking a step forward. The only argument that you could make that the offense does not move forward is that it's already on tape and other teams are going to start to try to play off of that. But you know what? Everybody has Patrick Mahomes on tape too, and they can't stop him. Maybe you want to make the argument it's because it's an alien, he can't be stopped. But there are a lot of teams that try to come up with game plans to stop players from doing what they're doing. Mike McDaniel has his offensive scheme. Tua is going to be back. He's going to be able to practice against a defense that is considered one of the best defensive coordinators in football. It's very difficult to say. I feel like those are all the pieces that you would need to be a Super Bowl contender. All the Dolphins have to do is avoid having half the roster on crutches next year.
Well, I don't know how you avoid that. I mean, you just we talked about this before with the injuries and turnovers. A lot of times it's just you have seasons where you have a lot of them, you have seasons where you don't, and it kind of goes back and forth. So hopefully with the injuries that we took this year, that'll kind of reverse itself just by the odds as far as injuries go. But
it's about third down defense. Dolphins' third down defense was bad this past season. If you had gotten the defense that they played in 2020, not even so much in 2021, in 2020, you take those numbers, their passer rating against, their third down percentage, their turnovers, and you translate them over to this season with what the offense did. You're talking about a differential of about almost 40 points in passer rating differential, which will make them one of the better teams in the last 40 years, maybe. So that's important. Stopping the pass and passing it well is extremely important. This year they had one and they didn't have the other, and it wasn't what it was 2 years prior. So all they need to do is get back to that. If Vic Fangio improves the pass defense, because this year I believe they gave up 102 passer rating, and the only thing that saved them and made them a winning team is that Tua had a 107 passer rating and he had a 117 for most of the year and for most of those wins. If they could get back to doing just that, and Tua just hovers around the 105 that he had this year, and they could get the passer rating against that they had in 2020 or 2021, Vic Fangio could get them down to somewhere around 85. That's a positive passer rating differential of 25 points. And if you look at that historically, that translates into Super Bowl wins, because that's usually the kind of teams that win Super Bowls are the ones that have really good pass defenses and that are able to pass it efficiently. Not even prolifically, just efficiently, meaning a lot of touchdowns, a lot of third down conversions, and no turnovers. That's the key.
I think one of the things that's going to help this year in 23, when I say this year, coming into 23 compared to 22 is I don't think it's going to take so long to find that running game and for the offense to figure that out. And, I don't think it's going to take till week. Man, I don't even know. I don't remember the game where all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're running the ball finally, week 8, week 9. I think that'll go away. I think we'll find an answer in this offseason for the 3rd and short woes we had because, oh, whoa, did we have them? We were like the worst in the league on 3rd and 1, I think, something like that, or really close to it. I think those types of things will get fixed for sure, and that's going to help us overall. We just need to get better, 3rd down, like what Alf said, on defense. If Fangio came in and did nothing else, if he left everything the same and could just help that 3rd down pass defense, which was just horrendous. It really was. You talked about, Chad, about a lot of the positive things that Boyer did, and we'd be lying if we said he didn't do some positive things. But, as they say, it takes how many attaboys to reverse whoops, I screwed up. I know. I have this empty room. I don't know what to do about it. It's just echoey. Sorry. But it just takes that so many attaboys, right, to fix your one screw up, and that one screw up kept happening over and over, and that was the 3rd and long defense, 3rd and long pass defense, was just terrible. So I'm really hoping that Fangio could fix that, and I really think we might have the type of players. I know that they're going to want to add to the defense. I'm sure Fangio's going to want to change out some pieces, but I really think that defensive line is what gets me the most excited about having Fangio there, because it really is a defensive line primed for an explosive season. I think I really truly believe that more than anything about the defense, and having Fangio in, I think, is going to just pump that up even more, because they had a good season, especially in the run defense, but even in getting a lot of pressure. They got a lot of pressure on the quarterback this year. A lot of what saved.
Jalen Phillips got a lot of pressure on the quarterback this year.
He did, and Chubb got pressure too, and Phillips his pressure really started to bloom when Chubb came. I understand that people were disappointed that Chubb didn't put up the numbers, but he absolutely helped that defensive line. And man, Sealer and Wilkins in the middle, those guys, man, those boys are serious. So I'm excited about all of that. I don't really have big concerns coming into the season, except for, let's be honest. The concern is Tua and his health. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field? Can he play 17 games or 16 games? Can he do it? That might be where this season comes down to.
Oh,
Part
it
of me
absolutely will be.
But part of me feels like, again, that's not something you can really control or plan for. What was the number? How many? There were 4 quarterbacks altogether that lasted the entire season. Was that the count that I heard? There was only 4 guys who made it through the whole season without getting hurt.
I don't know. That could be.
And how many times do we have to actually count a 49ers quarterback in that little death knell? Because the injuries after injury after injury for San Francisco, I felt part of me felt bad for them, even though they come and wreck my show every week. But so we can't assume the worst when it comes to Tua. Obviously, you prepare for it. That's why I'm in the camp of go sign Jimmy Garoppolo to be a backup, or maybe somebody along the lines of an Andy Dalton or something like that.
Oh,
I wouldn't mind.
No.
What, as a backup?
Andy Dalton? No.
As a backup?
Yeah, no. You can do better. Ron a couple of shows ago, I like Baker Mayfield. I think he could run a similar style system.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Baker Mayfield as a backup at all
if he's interested. But I'm not against Jimmy Garoppolo. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying he's getting a starting job somewhere. He knows that he's not coming.
I don't know. It's kind of running out of spots. Where's he gonna go?
He could go to the Colts. I think they'd take him. I think the Texans would probably take him.
He's gonna end up with the Raiders, isn't he?
Raiders would take him. Yeah.
That's probably where he ends up. To be honest,
Jets would absolutely take him right now.
You know where Aaron Rodgers is going? He's going to Vegas because Devontae Adams is gonna
Rodgers.
Devontae Adams is gonna put a full court press on that says, "I want this guy. Go get him."
Yeah, I don't know.
And Aaron Rodgers will absolutely look at the Raiders and be like, "Oh, I actually have a weapon now. I have somebody I can throw to. Oh, I have two people I can throw to, Darren Waller. Oh, I have a running back, I think, maybe. Here,
I think he's going back. I think he's going right back to Green Bay. I don't think the Raiders are going to trade anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
For
I do think Rodgers is staying in Green Bay too. If he even, I mean, isn't he sitting in a dark room for 4 days or something crazy with that guy? But who knows?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think Jimmy's. My point is, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo's taking a backup job. I think he'll get a starting job somewhere.
I don't know. I can't see it. I can't see after all this drama and all this talk about how pissed off that Aaron Rodgers was with the Packers and everything. I feel like at some point the Packers are going to have to come to realize, you know what, this isn't cutting it, and they may have to just give it up and do the rebuild. Like Aaron Rodgers.
Packers have zero power. Rodgers has all the power.
No, I know Rodgers has all the power. So if that's the case, if Rodgers is looking, and even still, you know what, I take that back, because as much as power as Rodgers has, he still can never get the thing that he wants. Right? He wants an offense that's worth a damn. And he can't get one because they won't give him weapons. And they traded away the only weapon. No, he didn't trade it. He just became a free agent, right? Devontae Adams.
No, they traded him. They traded him away.
They traded him.
Yeah. I think Green Bay would be happy to trade Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers just has to be willing to do whatever.
You don't think that Devontae Adams is not waving my I love Aaron sign and saying, come over here, and Rodgers going to be like, okay.
That doesn't always matter. I mean, quarterbacks can't get the players they want. Most teams. You know, sometimes even coaches are struggle to get the guys they want. Yeah, because your wide receiver wants your quarterback. That doesn't.
But it's not just any wide receiver. This is the guy who Aaron Rodgers relied on for years in Green Bay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, man.
I don't know.
I don't know. Sure they'd love to have him, but there's more to it than Devontae Parker. Devontae Adams.
He retired, by the way. Devontae Parker retired.
He retired.
Did he retire?
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Well, I kind of wondered.
So that trade was an absolute home run for Miami. It was.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I don't think there's any real Dolphins fan that falls too closely that didn't realize it was a home run the moment it happened. And I was like, oh my God, yes. I'm like, enjoy the 5 games he plays for you this year.
And by the way, they get to use that pick this year. It's pick. I'll tell you exactly which one it is. Somebody vamp while I look for the pick.
I mean, I can talk. Like, I can't even believe it. Like, I guess Devontae Parker was in New England for 1 year and decided, oh, I hate it here. I'm done, man. If this is the rest of my life, I'm not doing it.
He just had a lot of injury issues. I think getting a concussion probably was the last one for him. He's made a lot of money. I don't blame the guy.
He did the Reggie Wayne thing. He's like, he hung out in New England for a little while. Pick 84 for Devontae Parker.
That's easily like a starting running back or something for us. That could come out really well.
Could be
so that's this year. It's a top 100 pick for a retired guy.
Sam Laporta, here we go. I'm on the Sam Laporta train. If you guys didn't realize that, for tight end, I'd love to get him on the Dolphins.
Yeah, the only problem I see with a tight end is that they're really slow learning curve guys, and the team is kind of ready-made right now. You know?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to use a draft pick for a guy that's going to help you right away, I would use it on a running back over a tight end.
I kind of think they will. I think that's in the cards, yeah. I mean, the good thing, though, is without the first, you can get really good tight ends and running backs in the second and third round, which is what they'll be trying to do.
Yeah, so. And the Dolphins do have premium picks. They have 3 top 100 picks. Yeah. So, that's pretty good. That's fine. And it's the average. It's the average of what everybody else has. And everybody usually drafts 3 times in the top 100. Dolphins will draft 3 times in the top 100.
And this is something that I actually wanted to discuss because we know how Chris Grier works, right? Chris Grier is not going to just sit still this offseason and say, oh, yeah, these are all the draft picks we have. I'm good with that. We know what he does. He likes to see what he can squeeze out of other teams, right? So one of the things that I was looking at, and this was why I was kind of asking privately within our little social groups if there were other roster builders out there besides the Spot Track one, because Spot Track doesn't give me a whole lot of flexibility. But one of the options that Miami has is possibly making some trades. And we have some pieces that are tradable. I believe, Alf, that one of the things being discussed in OnlyFins was Jerome Baker's fit or lack thereof in this new Vic Fangio defense, that maybe he's going to become expendable at this point. If they trade Jerome Baker post June 1st, let's say they keep him until June and they decide to trade him somewhere, they could save $9 million on this year's cap. If they traded before that, they only save 4, but they end up killing $8 million in dead cap, which isn't great, but you could at least get a draft pick out of it. So part of me is wondering what kind of pieces are tradable, and would Chris Grier pull the trigger? I don't think it's a question of will he pull triggers. It's just where does he do it?
I think that depending on what they do at the linebacker position, Jerome Baker at that salary, because you're going to see it. You're going to see it this offseason. You're going to see some linebackers get some money that you're going to realize, wait a minute, maybe what we have here with Baker is fine. It's going to be up to Vic Fangio, really. But one thing I would look forward to is that trades of useful players for like 4th and 5th round picks are not things that this team is going to do. In fact, this team might not start using their 6th or 7th round picks anymore going forward in this incarnation of this team, because 6th and 7th round picks are probably not going to make this team, and UDFAs have a better shot at the roster than 6th or 7th round picks right now. So that's something that they're going to probably move away from. So that's something that they might be doing. They might be selling off their 6th and 7th round picks for future picks, but trading a useful player for like a 4th rounder or 5th rounder, unless it's to bring somebody else with a big salary in, I don't see it. One guy that can bring in a good pick, and when I say a good pick, I'm talking about like a 4th or 5th rounder that you could use to try to get future picks and then gain cap space, is Cedric Wilson. I think that's the best piece that they have to trade early in free agency is Cedric Wilson, because that salary is a good salary for a wide receiver 2 or a team that plays a lot of 11 personnel for a wide receiver 3. Now they might just sit around and say, you know what, we kind of like what we have, and we'll just ride this thing out with Cedric Wilson, because I think his problem was he just didn't have opportunities, because we know he can play, and obviously they thought that he can play when they went out of free agency to go get him, right? So if there's going to be a guy that they can trade and get like something to just push, picks down the road, I think Cedric Wilson is a perfect candidate. And another one, to be honest with you, is Austin Jackson, because at his salary in the 4th year, if there's somebody out there that is convinced that they can use him, or somebody had a good evaluation of him as a 1st rounder coming out, somebody might give you a pick for him. But we're talking about fire sale. Like you're just trying to move that salary off your books. And that's another one. That's Johnny Begood says Igbo to Minnesota. Igbo Nagani is another guy that you could probably get like a 6th round pick for.
Maybe Brian Flores will push for that guy. Maybe he still thinks he's also in
his 4th year. So somebody might look at it and say, you know what? We trade a 6th round pick and we'll play him this year. And if he's good, we're getting him going into his 2nd contract where we kind of control the cards. Or if he's not good, we just let him go. And that's it, and we get the compensatory pick. So, the Dolphins are going to be weighing all those things. Like, I do expect them to make a trade somewhere to try to gain some cap flexibility. I do expect that to happen, but I don't think it's Baker. I think it's probably somebody else, like a Byron Jones.
Well, Byron Jones, his contract is even harder to unload if you trade him than Jerome Baker, because according to what I'm looking at for over the cap, 14.8 if you trade him in dead cap, and only 3.5 in savings. I don't think
he could get traded, but it's post June. Nothing's happened with Byron Jones till after
I'm still convinced that somehow, whether anybody thinks it's a good idea or not, I still think Byron Jones still sticks around in Miami. I think
he's a useful player, especially in this system, because they might look at him as a Kareem Jackson, and Vic Fangio already did this once. Kareem Jackson at one point was very similar to Byron Jones as a cornerback, and he was converted into a safety. And Byron Jones was a safety he was a part-time safety with Dallas. That's part of the reason why the Dolphins liked him so much, because he was so versatile. He could play everywhere. He could play in the slot. He could play outside. He could play a free safety. This year, I was even told that he was going to have a real opportunity to play free safety, and then all hell broke loose with his with his Achilles, and then we don't know what happened there during the season. But maybe, this bodes well for him that Vic Fangio is here, because he could be a safety now in this system.
I think he's too expensive. I think they want the cap.
I think that there's a possibility they may tell. I would play hardball with him, honestly. I was like, listen, you have a choice. You can take. We'll play nice with you. We'll give you a smaller salary, but it's either this, you're gonna get what we have for you now, or you're gonna have to go try to convince another team that you still deserve $13-14 million a year, which is basically what he's making now. So
the Dolphins' MO with Byron Jones would be to try to replace him in free agency in March to see if they can get a player that would replace him, or in the draft. And if they fail on both those accounts, then maybe after June they'll consider it. But if they can accomplish that, then they'll just get rid of him in June. Maybe they can get some compensation for him. I'm just calling out right now, he's going to Minnesota. He's going to get cut, and he's going to go to sign with Minnesota.
Byron?
Yeah, I think he's going back with Flores. I don't think he's hurt. I don't think he wanted to play for the Dolphins without the guaranteed money. And either that, or there's no way in the world, if he actually does have Achilles problem, that I would pay him the money, because if it didn't heal in an entire offseason and full season, why would you give somebody that much money with some kind of Achilles concern?
Because how many months now away is OTAs and everything?
How long when did he have the surgery? It's been a year now.
It's going to be a year in March.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing. It's a lot of money. You might be able to get a different veteran corner out in the market that's safer, younger. There's a lot of options.
We're still keeping Xavier Howard. We're still treating him like he's a premier, but we're still treating him like he's a premier corner in spite of his injury issues. Byron Jones, again, we're not talking about a guy who was like a fringe starter that we're just keeping around because we overpaid him. Byron Jones was considered one of the premier secondary players in the entire NFL. And when he got to Miami, there were a lot of people saying Byron Jones is now the best player on that defense, not Xavier Howard. And the only reason, and part of the reason we think the other way, though, is because Xavier Howard's just better at creating turnovers. But as far as coverage goes, Byron was the lockdown guy. X just knew how to make interceptions happen.
Here's the problem, though, Lewis, is Xavier Howard this year was covering number one wide receivers man-to-man.
Right, with a groin that couldn't let him run.
Byron Jones was sitting on the couch not doing anything and didn't seem to have any involvement with the team later the season went. And I didn't hear glowing responses from Mike McDaniel or Sam Madison about Byron Jones. It just seemed very cryptic that they weren't very happy with
Right,
that.
but Sam Madison is not in charge of the defense. Vic Fangio is.
Right, but if Byron Jones had a Achilles injury and he was working his way back and working his butt off and he was in all the meetings, I don't think you would have gotten the way those guys talked about him the way they did. I think he's already gone. I think the perception in the building is Byron Jones could have played, and he chose not to. That's just my reading the tea leaves right now with the press conferences when people are asked about Byron Jones.
No, you don't have to read tea leaves. I'm telling you, that was their perception.
Yeah. So if that's what they thought, why do you think they're going to pay him a huge amount of money?
Yeah, I reported this on, and it was on OnlyFans, and I said it on the podcast. If he was not on that plane headed out west to practice, which would have meant that he would have debuted against the Packers on Christmas Day here in Miami. If he was not on the plane headed out west to practice, he was no longer going to be on this team.
Yeah, this is a team that was in the playoff race that needed him badly, and I think he could have come and helped, and he chose not to. So you got to think about what's the psychology of the team in the building, and do the players trust him and like him and want him there as well. And I just don't see it right now. I mean, despite I get what he used to be and what he could be and all those sorts of things, but there's too much of the same people in the building that were here this season to, I think, just look over that. So
yeah, and I'll say this: Vic Fangio's defense is going to ask X to play a lot of near hash 2-deep zone. It's going to ask him to play a lot of quarters. It's going to ask him to play some 3-man, some cover 3. none of that is traveling with Stephon Diggs for 60 snaps in a game.
No.
So you could have this season, you could have an Xavier Howard renaissance all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden, it'll be week 14. We'll be like, whoa, this guy's really, really good again. Like he's not injured. No, he's in a system that's catering to him. It's catering to an aging cornerback. And so I expect Xavier Howard to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of a Vic Fangio defense.
Hey,
him
Alf,
and Javon Holland.
Alf, I got a question. What about Brandon Jones? Now that we're really not going to be doing as much like safety blitz type stuff, where do you think he fits? And if we resign Needham, because I think he's a free agent, do you think we'll resign Needham? How about that?
Yeah, I think that's a lock. I think Nick Needham is coming back. I would expect, like, if I had to bet money, I don't think that there's a prop on this, but if there were, I would bet that what they're doing with the secondary is signing an expensive safety, cutting Byron Jones loose. Brandon Jones will play big nickel in the base, which means he'll be the third safety. They're re-signing Nick Needham. They're bringing back Kohu as a nickel guy, and they're going to probably use pick 51 on a cornerback. That's my guess. And as far as a free agent, something like really low level, something cheap. And I don't have a name for that right now. But I don't think that they would spend a lot of money on a cornerback because the Vic Fangio system really doesn't need one. It doesn't ask for one. And you kind of have the pieces at cornerback to play Vic Fangio's system. You just do.
Assuming Needham is healthy, yeah, I think that's
if Needham is healthy, then they have enough. They have enough already. If Needham is healthy.
Because didn't he also have an Achilles injury?
He had an Achilles, and Brandon Jones had an ACL.
Nervous. Brandon Jones he'll be fine. ACLs, the technology's there, and you've even seen him doing his rehab. Brandon Jones will be good to go when the season starts. Nick Needham, I don't know. He ruptured his Achilles, which is worse than the injury Byron Jones had. So he had to have it reattached surgically. And I'm sure he's been rehabbing it. He's young. Hopefully he can come back. But that's a very difficult injury to come back in corner where, you got to be really, really quick and quick twitch and all those things. But I really liked Nick Needham as a player before the injury. So if he can get back, that would make sense to me. But I think there's a new corner. Alf's right. It's either a draft pick or they are going to get one in the free agency market.
Well, there are some names out there. I'm just going to throw some out there. I'll see if you guys, if anything suits your fancy here. I'm going to try to stay in the lower levels here. Patrick Peterson, he's 32. He made $4 million as an average.
I will say this: Patrick Peterson is perfect to put opposite of X for a 1-year deal. Now, is Patrick Peterson interested in signing a 1-year deal? Like that's the thing.
He's 32. He's not.
He might be. He might be right now. I don't know.
He might want to do
James Brad.
He might want to do what Gilmore did with the Colts. Gilmore got 2 years, $20 million.
Right.
Patrick Peterson might want a guarantee that pushes past one season, so he might ask for something like 2 years, $12 million, something like that, and most of it guaranteed.
Kyle Fuller is another option.
Kyle Fuller makes perfect sense, and he played under Fangio. So
and he only made 2.5 last year. Looks like.
Yeah, that's a guy that could fit in to help with depth.
Man, you know what? Let's lock it in. Do we have like a lock it in segment? Something we say. Let's lock it in.
I mean, you throw names out there like that, and it to me it makes it how crystal clear Byron Jones is gone. You can get Patrick Peterson or Kyle Fuller for $4 million even a year, and you can cut $15 million off your cap in June. That's your play. And then that allows them probably to get a deal in place that they want for Wilkins to get him extended if you get ready.
You got to remember we're flipping the defense. Last year we were 65% man, 35% zone. It's going to be the opposite this coming year. It's going to be 35% man, 65% zone. So what does that mean? Older cornerbacks have longer shelf lives now. Right. And X should have a good season because he gets to be looking at the quarterback all play.
X was hung out to dry, just hung out, man.
And look, I'm a huge fan of X. I'm a huge fan of X. He had an absolutely awful season, but I will say this: he played his best in the biggest games. His 2 games against Buffalo, he was absolutely magnificent in both games. And he had a great game against Justin Jefferson. So, he had his moments, but he was bad this year. He needed this
low
change.
key though. He was playing because they were so shorthanded, and he played with a hurt groin a lot. And I mean, the fact he's covering in man, often the team's number 1 wide receiver without safety help because Boyer's sending blitzing so often. I mean, that's a really difficult ask that he held.
It was. They asked something of him that, I mean, man, it was just tough. It was so, and they would make him do it over and over. And it was just that defense. It was the way that defense was set. Remember Iggy's first season? I think it was week 2. Byron Jones got hurt, and Byron Jones was supposed to be covering Diggs. So then they put Iggy on Diggs
and got cooked. I do remember that.
And afterwards in the press conference, Iggy's like, man, I've been asked to cover guys before, but I've never been asked to chase somebody around the field for like 4, 5, 6 seconds straight. I mean, that like Boyer just could not get off of that defensive philosophy in his head. He just couldn't come away from it. He just could not pull himself away from that thought process that I'm going to stick a dude, even if he ain't the dude that I should be sticking on, because either he's injured or the guy he's defending just shouldn't be defended one-on-one by a cornerback, even if no matter who it is. I mean, that in the end, I think that was where Boyer went wrong and why Fangio's here now.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing. I was asked this on Twitter the other day, like, what does this mean for the Buffalo Bills matchup? It means that everything that they had success with on defense against Josh Allen will now be 100% of the time. So Josh Allen was just absolutely killing us every time we blitzed. It was just the first time he was like 9 for 10 with a 145 passer rating against our blitz.
It wasn't just us. Like, Allen kills the blitz. You're not supposed to blitz him, but then they just keep doing it. And you forced them into a couple turnovers, but
and that's what's weird, right? They ran a couple of 0 blitzes against Allen, and they got 2 turnovers on a touchdown in the playoff game. And so somebody out there is going to say, you see, it worked. No, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
It didn't work the other 40 plays that he destroyed you on. Because go back and look at, I mean, the guy threw for like 1,000 yards. Like, everybody's talking about, Boyer did so good against Allen.
And the second game in Buffalo,
1,000 yards on us this season.
The second game in Buffalo was a perfect example. Okay, they were nowhere while we were playing a lot of cover 3, a lot of cover 4, not blitzing for 5 consecutive possessions in the 3rd and 4th quarter. Where did they beat us? On a blitz where he throws it up and we get a pass interference against Keder. That's what beat us in that game against Buffalo. Because the series before that one, that not only did they sack him and he fumbled and they recovered, unfortunately, but they went nowhere. And we actually got the ball back. People forget that. People forget that we got the ball back and drove
to the 40.
We drove to the 40, and then it was just, we were just standing around saying, we can't kick from here. So, we'll punt it back to you, and that's where the game was lost. But it was still working. Like, our defense, as far as not blitzing, was working against Josh Allen. And, of course, we brought it out one more time, and there was the pass interference penalty, and that was the game.
Yep.
So I was just pointed out somebody from Walt Dog is saying we got to read the comments. Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, Walt, because this is the whole premise of the show, right? To be able to read the comments and get the pulse of Fins Nation. I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry.
It's all Lewis's fault.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the host. I'm supposed to.
He's in charge.
I'm supposed to be in charge. Yeah. It actually is my fault. But here, let's do this before we call it a show. Walt Dog was actually bringing up C.J. Gardner-Johnson, safety from the Eagles / cornerback, because wasn't he a corner before he became a safety? If I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure Manny can attest, and I'm sure that if I get a chance to talk to him later, that he'll definitely say that this guy is really good. So, how's this?
I'll say this: he's the best defensive back available in all of free agency, and he will make our defense exponentially better. One problem: he's going to make $15 million a year, and we don't have that money.
Give him Byron Jones's money if that's what we're worried about.
We got to figure out how the hell to do that, though.
Yeah. You don't just kill Byron Jones.
Although I'll tell you this, you do cut Kader Kohu's development short because I think Kader Kohu is a slot guy, and CJ Gardner-Johnson is perfect to be the slot guy and essentially like big nickel. So he's essentially pushing two players out. He pushes Kader Kohu out to the perimeter, which is probably not something that we want. And he renders Brandon Jones kind of useless for this defense. So fabulous player. I would take him in a second, but he's pretty expensive and he makes you shuffle around your entire secondary. That's my only concern.
That guy, that's a premium. Like he'll sign with the team under a big deal in March. He won't be around in June when you get Byron Jones money. I think
if you want to sorry to interrupt you. If you want to get an impact player, okay, at safety, I think I was going to say Josh Boyer again. Jordan Poyer is the perfect fit. First of all, he's not going to be expensive. He's going to be somewhere around what Tyrann Mathieu got, which is about 3 years, $27 million or something like that, $24 million. It's like $8 million a year is what he's probably going to get. Jordan Poyer. He's still effective, and he's on this side of 30, which means you're going to get him for a 2-year deal. So it's going to be a team-friendly deal, and he's an impact player right away at safety, and he allows you to play Brandon Jones as your big nickel in your base. And I think he makes your secondary immediately much better. So, he's not C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He's nowhere near C.J. Gardner-Johnson because C.J. Gardner-Johnson is the guy that you sign, and he's here for 6-7 years. He could grow old here. But C.J. is expensive, really expensive. And I just don't think they can spend that money.
Yeah, Johnny Be Good say, if you want to guarantee your comment gets read, use the super chat. Yeah, that's the thing that's constantly going down the bottom of the screen. Yeah, the super chat.
Listen, yeah, people, if you want to get your comment read, pay us.
Yeah. That guarantees that.
Are we that baller though? I don't know if we're like 3 YPC level yet, dude.
Nah,
3 YPC.
We're working on it. But anyway, we're past the hour mark. Comment. We're past the hour mark.
You know what Walt says? If we want to work on it, read the freaking comments.
Walt says TJ will take 11 or 12 in no state, Texas. He's from Florida.
No chance.
If you can pull it off, great, Walt. I'd take that.
Yeah,
I mean, if you'll do it, yeah.
Listen,
if Walt wants to negotiate on behalf of the Dolphins and he could bring back a contract with those numbers,
you just got Chris Greer.
I'll take it personally. I'll take it personally to Chris Greer, and I'm certain that Chris Greer would say, "Are you kidding me? Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it."
I tell you what, even more. If he can do that, we'll be sure to read his comments.
From now on, yeah, absolutely.
There's too much with the cap opening up too. Like they extended the space on the cap. There's gonna be huge contracts in free agency.
Man,
ridiculous.
Guys, I really hope that big news drops next week because I don't want the show to end. I don't want the show to disappear for a while. I don't want to take time off. I like talking about stuff with you guys.
Well, they got to sign an offensive line coach next week.
Oh, this is true. Yeah, we got to sign. There you go.
I remember. No, you got to remember when Vic Fangio comes in, he's probably going to want a little shakeup of the defensive staff.
He will.
So there's going to be a lot of news next week. Last year there was a ton of news because we had a brand new coach. Actually, I believe today isn't today the anniversary of Mike McDaniel being hired. He was hired a week before the Super Bowl, right?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, he was hired 5 days before the Super Bowl, was it? Something like that, or a week before the Super Bowl.
I believe.
Happy 1 year anniversary, Mikey.
So yeah, I would expect that next week there's going to be a ton of news, including possibly we're counting down to that Christian Wilkins extension, which is coming. So
they've got to do that.
That's happening.
The thing is, Ron was literally texting me earlier.
And wait till people see the numbers on that one, okay? And then you're gonna see CJ Gardner-Johnson at 11 or 12 million a year with no state income tax. Yeah, sure. Wait till you see Christian Wilkins' numbers. There's gonna be 9 digits in that contract. 9.
I mean, that's gonna be pretty fancy there.
You guys want to guess on the number? I'll go out and I'll put a number.
I mean, the very minimum, if you're gonna put 9 digits, it has to be 100 million. So
I'll say minimum, 6 years. 6 years, 105 million.
Oof, that's hefty. That's hefty, man.
I mean,
you gotta pay. You gotta pay if you want to play, man.
What did we sign Ndamukong Suh to?
He's better.
More than that.
He's honestly, though, at the time, I mean, it was a big deal, but Christian Wilkins is more viable than Ndamukong Suh right now in free agency.
Today, yeah, obviously.
I would say even when we signed him back then, like Wilkins is like the number of snaps he can play is unreal. Like it's crazy. He had an unbelievably good year.
He's a core guy on that defense.
Like I'll give you the numbers if you guys want to, because I can't right now. Look in Spotrac and look for Brenton Buckner. Is it Brenton Buckner? The defensive tackle for the Colts. Look up his numbers. Look at his contract.
All right, let me just take a quick look here. Brenton Buckner, he said.
I assume we'll get a little bit of a hometown discount.
Oh, DeForest Buckner. Oh, okay.
Yeah, DeForest Buckner.
Okay,
because Wilkins his option's been picked up, right? Like so, even if Wilkins didn't get a new contract this year, he's already guaranteed for the following year. So
yes,
it is in Christian Wilkins' best interest to be a little bit reasonable and not risk injury.
DeForest Buckner made 4 years, $84 million.
Okay, what's that average? That's 21 million a year.
Probably 23, 24 is
and total guaranteed $44 million.
Okay, that same contract at a year, and that's Wilkins' deal.
So 5 years, $100 million, basically.
5 years, $105 million, about 55 guaranteed.
Yeah, that's probably right, realistically.
Fat stacks.
Yeah, some people are going to choke to death on Twitter when they see those numbers.
With a very low first year.
He's the guy. He's had no injury history like that you're concerned about. He's still pretty young. I'm just saying he's worth that much money. That's just the reality.
You're jinxing it, is what you're doing. It's just
there's one I wanted to ask. How about the right tackle from the 49ers? Do you think he'll be a
McGlinchey? He's going to be expensive, and he's the argument against CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, but I feel like we just have not been able to develop offensive linemen here. We don't even have our coach right now, but
Robert Hunt.
That's the guy. That's the one guy.
The one guy. And so
one guy.
Look, they were right. They were right. They were right about Connor Williams. So they deserve credit there. But look, I'm not for drafting another tackle unless they get absolutely incredibly lucky and they get one to drop to them at 51. But I don't think that's going to happen. And besides, free agency is before the draft, so might as well just secure your right tackle. We went over this on OnlyFans. I asked, how many teams have, expensive bookends, because I didn't expect it to be that many. Well, guess what? The Eagles are currently spending $36 million on 2 tackles. So if they can do it, I think we can do it.
And never mind their interior. The Eagles have, I feel like they have the best offensive line in the whole NFL, bar none.
Yeah, easily. They do.
I don't know how you, with what happened last year with Tua, how you cannot. That's where you spend your free agency money. Like you've got to bring in a stud.
And you have a track record, right? Like you went out and you paid Teron Armstead and you got him on a good deal. Okay, but if you think about it, you're kind of getting what you pay for. Like he's playing the games. Like if he played 17 games, he's underpaid.
Right.
But since he played 14, he actually got paid what he's worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because he's played 14, I say double up. You kind of were right. You hit with Teron Armstead. You hit with Connor Williams, and you when you signed Connor Williams, you told everybody, "Nah, he's our center." So that was a gamble. A lot of people are like, are you sure about this? Well, they were right? Well, go, dig in again, go back to the well again because you kind of have a good thing going. Go sign a right tackle, and that's it. And then you're just gonna have to go cheap at left guard.
That's okay. That's easier to do.
Not Robert Jones cheap, please.
No, it's probably to be honest with you, it probably will be Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson going for that left guard spot.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Listen, I don't know what it is about Miami with their Wisconsin and Iowa bad luck. Those aren't those. No, it wasn't Iowa. What was it? Wisconsin and what was the other?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. Aren't those teams supposed to be churning out offensive linemen?
Supposed to be.
And the ones that Miami picked, somehow those are the lemons. I don't understand.
Well, hopefully they'll get a coach in place that can help. But I'm just thinking there's needs, but if I had to pick between safety and right tackle, I'd draft the safety and pay the tackle the money right now. what I would do.
I agree. I agree 1,000%. And you could get cheap safeties if you actually need to go that way. But I do think that you could have a home run offseason where you could get the right tackle and somebody like I said, Jordan Poyer. But beggars can't be choosers. Like, you don't have all the cap space in the world to just go get CJ Gardner-Johnson and go get. You already did that last year. Last year is the year where you went and you got the top wide receiver anywhere available for Tyreek Hill, and you got the number one free agent in Teron Armstead. You did that last year. You can't do it again this year.
And then you traded for Chubb and paid him $100 million.
Yeah, so yeah, you did all of that last year. This is the year where you're gonna have to cut a corner or two, and that's why, like, if you want a home run off season, it's probably McGlinchey at right tackle and Jordan Poyer.
Then you know what? I'd be happy.
You get two impact players. You get an impact player on offense and an impact player on defense, and then you call it an off season.
I would be ecstatic because you know what? Again, I think with the addition of Fangio, who's running the whole thing on defense, and the fact that Tua is going to get to improve against that, again, I don't see why these Dolphins can't be a Super Bowl contender. All right.
Oh, if Tua is healthy, they will be. Yeah, they will.
Sweet. I like the sound of that. All right. We're going to call it here. We went a little bit over. I know we're trying to cut this down. But, Ron, I'm sorry. I think we may have to do another show next week. We'll see what happens.
I can't be here Tuesday next week. Sorry.
Okay, we'll work on Wednesday then. I don't know, man.
Maybe.
Like, I know offensive line coach doesn't move the needle for you
next week, but back the week after.
All right. Okay. Well, Chad, you want to?
By the way, there's a question. There was a question in the chat, which is a pretty good one. Johnny B. Good asked, "How much will Sealer? How much will he want?" It's very simple. The way you do it is like this: you go and you see what Christian Wilkins gets, and you look at his snap count. You divide his dollars by his snap count, and then you go to Zach Sealer and you look at his snap count, and you divide those dollars by his snap count, and you reduce it by, like, let's say 15%. So somewhere around $12 million a year is what Zach Sealer is going to get the following year, which is a pretty big jump. But it's as simple as this: just because we know that Zach Sealer is really, really good, his snap count is going to keep him from those astronomical numbers. And he's considered in the league, they consider him one-dimensional. They consider him a run stopper. Although we
know better.
Sealer is no longer a secret. That's the thing. When we extended him before, he was kind of a secret, man.
Like, there's a possibility that somebody's going to go crazy.
He's not a secret anymore, man. People know.
There's a possibility that somebody out there is going to go crazy and offer the world to Sealer, but you're going to bank on the goodwill that we found him and paid him, Yeah. And we're going to tell him, look, man, you kind of like it here. Your best friend is, Christian Wilkins. If you need a loan, I'm pretty sure you could ask Christian Wilkins for it.
Yeah.
So play ball with us, and it's not like we're gonna have you destitute and out in the street. Like, we're gonna give you a pile of money.
I think we're gonna
just play a little ball with us. That's all.
I think we're gonna be able to keep those four together because I think they know that they're special together more than they are apart. They are probably excited for Fangio coming in. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think we're going to be able to keep those four together. You got some really fantastic, not just players, but personalities and people on that defensive line. And maybe, none better than Phillips. And he's the guy we don't have to really worry about paying right now. So I'm not concerned about that. I think you're going to see those four guys. And, man, I'm not saying the Dolphins are a Super Bowl team, but that's a Super Bowl front four, in my opinion, in Chubb, Sealer.
Ron, you literally said earlier in the year that Miami was going to go to the Super Bowl, and so if you could have that level of conviction when the Dolphins were on their winning streak, and now you see what they're doing to put this whole thing together with Fangio as defensive coordinator, I don't know how you can't say that they're not Super Bowl contenders.
Hey, in the preseason when we made all our predictions about who would go in the Super Bowl, I got the NFC completely wrong, but I did predict that Patrick Mahomes will win MVP and make the Super Bowl. So I had Kansas City and Green Bay, by the way. I screwed up because I had Mahomes finishing first in MVP voting and Aaron Rodgers finishing second, and Aaron Rodgers was nowhere to be found, and neither were the Packers. So
yeah, that's true. I try to be real, guys. If Tua is healthy, that's the big if. He is right now. This offense is going to be better than last year, and I think maybe significantly better because they're going to get a young back that's got good speed, and they're going to get a better tight end. They're going to add a tight end with Smythe that's a better all-around blocking, pass-catching tight end. Those are not hard things to obtain,
Tua needs a running back. Saquon Barkley, anybody?
I think they're just going to draft a guy that's fast, and they'll probably re-sign.
I am not convinced the Dolphins are going to draft a running back ever. Ever.
I think you just re-sign Mostert and draft a back. But I'm just telling you guys, Tua's coming back. They already know this system. Tyreek Hill's back. Jalen Waddle's back. They know the system.
Raheem Mostert needs to come back.
I think Mostert.
Jeff Wilson needs to come back.
But they're going to add another lineman in that mix. This offense is going to be better next year. It's going to be scary good. I'm very confident.
Yeah, Mostert and Wilson, like, there's no danger there. Those are, very, very. That's cheap labor. Like, they're bringing those guys back. But I do agree with Chad. They gotta mix in a young guy in there somewhere.
Well, Doug wants Josh Jacobs.
I don't know if they'll put the money into the running back position or not for agency.
Well, how much money though? I mean, they're literally about to cut Dalvin Cook, who is like their whole not their whole offense anymore.
Yeah, I think that the running back position is going to be there's going to be a glut at the running back position. Yeah. Now there's a rumor that the Titans might cut Derrick Henry to get some cap relief.
What?
Yes,
he's getting up there in age too.
What?
I will pay Derrick Henry whatever he wants.
We don't have Derrick Henry money.
If you're going to spend the money, you want Barkley, man. That's the guy.
No, bro, you're crazy. Over Henry? Nah, get out of here.
No way.
Nobody over Henry. Nobody over Henry. I like Barkley.
I think Henry's past his prime now.
No, absolutely not.
No.
No way. Derrick Henry, please.
Yeah, Derrick Henry. We don't have Derrick Henry money.
We made that mistake once already. Oh, if Tua had Derrick.
Yeah, because the rumor is that Tennessee is gonna blow it all up. So if they're blowing it all up, what do you need? What do you need a $14 million a year running back for?
No, if Tennessee's blowing it up, they got our backup quarterback there right now. Bring him home.
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
No, because Tannehill can't do what McDaniel wants.
Absolutely.
Tannehill cannot do what McDaniel wants.
I guarantee Tannehill can do anything.
No, he cannot. He cannot run. He cannot throw with anticipation. He doesn't throw.
You tell me one thing Tannehill can't do better than Teddy Bridgewater. I'll wait.
Well, if that's the line,
Tannehill throws at people.
Not I could be the backup.
He's faster. He's got a bigger arm. He would be. You tell me something better than Jacoby Brissett.
Tannehill is not a fit for McDaniel.
All right,
I'm not saying the starter. He's the backup.
All right. Do you see why we can't stop doing shows, Ron? Because we still have so much to talk about.
I mean, the Dolphins crew just boom when you say Ryan Tannehill coming back. That's it.
No, I want Derrick Henry. If there's a rumor that Derrick Henry's, I don't care. Give Derrick Henry the same money he's making Tennessee. I don't care. Offense is fixed, done. Even if you don't fix the offensive line, give the ball to Derrick Henry 20 times a game and watch how good Tua suddenly becomes throwing the ball.
Yeah, Johnny Be Good asked. He asked me, Alf, is Raekwon Davis going to get a second contract here? Absolutely. Raekwon Davis he's been pigeonholed and his career has been hurt by essentially what the previous system had him do, which was play a lot of zero. Okay. And I don't mean zero coverage. I mean zero tech. As in head up on the center. And those guys do not get paid. They just don't get paid. The only zero tech that got any money in this entire league is Vita Vea. And Vita Vea also plays a little 3-tech as well with Tampa. That's the only guy that got paid. But he was also a top 5 pick. So you can see how it was coming. You know what I mean? A big contract was gonna come to him. Raekwon Davis has been hurt by that. We've never seen him play as a 3-tech. He's not getting any money. So he'll be here for a while because he'll be really affordable going forward.
I think he's pretty close with Wilkins too, like friends wise.
Mm-hmm.
Those two hang out a lot.
All right, for real, we got to stop this show.
We're
never going to get out of here. We're never going to get out of here.
All right, let's evaluate the defense. Let's go player by player.
Next week.
Let's talk about free agent kickers on the market.
All right. for anybody who's going to be watching the Super Bowl, make sure that you go to prizepicks.com, which is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can pick up to 6 different players across the leagues to be able to get in there. And of course, they are going to be giving away a free Patrick Mahomes square. All he has to do is throw for 1 yard, which this is the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes might throw for 500 yards coming up. So all you have to do is just use the promo code 5. That's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up using that promo code. They're basically giving you Patrick Mahomes for free, and they always have ways to multiply your money. So just get in there, use that promo code 5. That's FIVE to go to PrizePicks.com. When you sign up, they'll match up to $100 on your deposit. Get in there and start winning right the heck now. All right.
Yeah, what's more fun than Super Bowl Sunday? Have all your food out, get ready to watch good
get
football.
Paid for it.
2 great teams, and then have a little action on the game. Use that promo code. Deposit $100. They give you $100. Bet it all in the Super Bowl because it doesn't matter. You know why? Because they're giving it back to you. Take it.
Exactly. There you go. It's Prize Picks is an amazing place if you're going to try to get into the game as far as fantasy goes. And again, it is fantasy. It is not necessarily gambling per se. So it is legal in the state of Florida. So I've had people ask that question. So, and by the way, for anybody who's not aware, OnlyFins, $3 a month, and just get in there right now. I think it's pinned on the 3 yards per carry.
Yeah,
Twitter
Chad, $3 a month, man.
I'm joining. Follow me.
All right. I'm going to hold you to that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We will see you all next week. Maybe. I'm going to see if I can finagle Ron into showing up somehow. We'll see. All right. Good night, everybody.
All right.